Ever wondered what life was really like along the Nile thousands of years ago? Let's drift back in time together and explore some fascinating secrets of ancient Egypt. First, let's talk about something we all use every day: a calendar. The ancient Egyptians were brilliant astronomers. They noticed that the star Sirius reappeared in the sky right before the Nile River would flood each year, an event crucial for their farming. Based on this, they created one of the first 365-day calendars, incredibly similar to the one we use today. It had 12 months of 30 days each, plus 5 extra days at the end of the year dedicated to festivals for their gods. Imagine organizing your whole year around a river and a star. Now, think about makeup. Eyeliner isn't just a modern trend. Both men and women in ancient Egypt wore heavy eye makeup, usually black kohl or green malachite. But it wasn't just for beauty. They believed it had magical healing properties and could protect their eyes from the harsh sun's glare and ward off infections, what they called the evil eye. So, next time you put on eyeliner, remember you're part of a tradition that's over 4,000 years old. What about their pets? We love our furry friends, and so did the Egyptians. They held a special place in their hearts for cats. Cats were seen as divine creatures, associated with the goddess Bastet, who was the protector of the home, fertility, and childbirth. Harming a cat, even accidentally, was a serious crime. When a family cat passed away, the owners would mourn deeply, sometimes even shaving their own eyebrows as a sign of respect and grief. These beloved pets were often mummified and buried with the same care as humans. Let's move on to the pyramids. We all know they were tombs for the pharaohs, but how were they built? It wasn't by magic, but by incredible engineering and a massive, well-organized workforce. These weren't slaves, as many movies suggest, but skilled, paid laborers. They lived in organized communities near the construction sites, with their own bakeries, breweries, and even medical facilities. Archaeologists have found their tombs, which show they were buried with honor. It was a national project, a way of ensuring the pharaoh's successful journey to the afterlife, which in turn guaranteed prosperity for the entire kingdom. And speaking of the afterlife, it was a central focus of Egyptian life. They believed that death was just a temporary interruption before a new, eternal existence. To get there, your heart was weighed against the feather of Mat, the goddess of truth and justice. If your heart was lighter than the feather, meaning you lived a good and honest life, you were granted passage to the afterlife. If it was heavier, it was devoured by a fearsome creature, and your soul would cease to exist. This is why they placed such a high value on living a balanced and moral life. Now for something a bit more everyday: board games. The Egyptians loved to relax and have fun just like we do. One of the most popular games was called Senet. It's one of the oldest board games in the world, dating back over 5,000 years. The game board had 30 squares, and players moved their pieces based on throwing sticks, kind of like dice. Senet wasn't just for fun, though. It also represented the journey of the soul through the underworld. So, winning a game of Senet was like successfully navigating your way to the afterlife. Let's talk about writing. Hieroglyphs are beautiful, but they were also very complex. For everyday tasks like writing letters, keeping records, or doing math, they used a simpler, cursive script called hieratic. Scribes were highly respected members of society because literacy was rare. They spent years in special schools learning to read and write. Being a scribe was a path to a good career, exempting them from manual labor and taxes. What did they eat? The Nile provided a fertile land, so their diet was quite healthy. Bread and beer were the absolute staples of the Egyptian diet, for everyone from the pharaoh to the farmers. They grew wheat and barley to make them. Their diet also included a lot of vegetables like onions, garlic, and lettuce, as well as fruits like dates and figs. Fish from the Nile and poultry were common sources of protein. Think about medicine. Egyptian doctors were surprisingly advanced for their time. They could set broken bones, perform simple surgeries, and had remedies for many common illnesses. The medical papyri that have survived show they had a deep understanding of anatomy, likely gained through the practice of mummification. They mixed practical treatments with magical spells and prayers, believing that illness was often caused by evil spirits or the anger of the gods. Let's circle back to the pharaohs. Not all pharaohs were men. Powerful women also ruled Egypt, the most famous being Hatshepsut. She ruled for over 20 years and brought great prosperity to her kingdom, overseeing ambitious building projects and trade expeditions. To solidify her authority in a male-dominated world, she was often depicted in statues and carvings with a male body and even a false beard, the traditional symbol of pharaonic power. Another interesting detail is their relationship with animals beyond cats. They revered many animals, associating them with different gods. The ibis was linked to Thoth, the god of wisdom. Crocodiles were linked to Sobek, the god of the Nile. Baboons, falcons, and even scarab beetles were all seen as sacred. Vast cemeteries have been found containing millions of mummified animals offered to the gods by devout pilgrims. What about their homes? While the pyramids and temples were built of stone to last for eternity, ordinary Egyptians lived in houses made of mud bricks. These bricks, made from Nile mud and straw, were cheap and easy to produce but dissolved in water. That's why very few ancient Egyptian houses have survived compared to their stone monuments. The homes of the wealthy were larger, with multiple rooms, gardens, and pools, while poorer families lived in simpler, one- or two-room dwellings. Let's discuss their laws. Ancient Egypt had a well-developed legal system. At its head was the pharaoh, who was considered a living god and the ultimate judge. Below him were officials who heard cases and delivered verdicts. The law covered everything from property disputes and theft to more serious crimes. Both men and women could own property, run businesses, and bring cases to court. Justice was a core value rooted in the concept of order, truth, and balance. And finally, let's talk about their innovations. Beyond the calendar and medicine, the Egyptians were incredible innovators. They invented papyrus, a lightweight and durable writing material that revolutionized record-keeping. They developed advanced irrigation systems to control the Nile's floods and water their crops. They were masters of glass-making, and they even invented a form of toothpaste made from a mixture of rock salt, mint, dried iris flowers, and pepper. From their monumental architecture to their intricate beliefs about the cosmos, the world of ancient Egypt is a deep and fascinating ocean of history. Every object, from a simple pot to a golden sarcophagus, tells a story about a civilization that shaped our world in countless ways. Drifting through these facts, we see a people full of life, innovation, and a profound connection to the world beyond. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful journey down the Nile. I hope you feel relaxed and inspired. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe for more calming explorations. See you next time.